Doubtful that I would turn up, Dumbledore suggested shrewdly. I'll just go pack and finish off, Harry said hastily, hurrying up to pick up his fallen telescope and trainers. It took him a little over 10 minutes to track down everything he needed. At last, he managed to extract his invisibility cloak from underneath his bed, screwed the top back onto the jar of color changing ink, and forced the lid of his trunk shut on his cauldron. Then, heaving his trunk in one hand and holding Hagrid's cage in the other, he made his way back downstairs. He disappeared. He was disappointed to discover that Dumbledore was not waiting in the hall, which meant that he had to return to the living room. Nobody was talking. Dumbledore was humming quietly, apparently quite at ease, but the atmosphere was thicker than cold custard, and Harry did not dare look at the Dursleys as he said, "Professor, I'm ready now." "Good," said Dumbledore. "Just one last thing." And he turned to speak to the Dursleys at once. As you will no doubt be aware, Harry comes of age in a year's time. "No," Petunia said, speaking for the first time since Dumbledore's arrival. "I'm sorry," said Dumbledore politely. "No, he doesn't. He's a month younger than Dudley, and Dudders doesn't turn 18 until the year after next." "Ah," said Dumbledore pleasantly, "but in the wizarding world, we come of age at 17. Uncle Vernon muttered, "Preposterous!" But, but Dumbledore ignored him. "Now, as you already know, the wizard called Lord Voldemort has returned to this country. The wizarding community is currently in a state of open warfare. Harry, whom Lord Voldemort has already attempted to kill on a number of occasions, is in even greater danger now the day when I left him on the doorstep 15 years ago, with a letter explaining about his parents' murder and expressing the hope that you would care for him as though he were your own." Dumbledore paused. And although his voice remained light and calm, he gave no obvious sign of anger. Harry felt a kind of chill emanating from him, and noticed that the Dursleys drew very slightly closer together. "You did not do as I asked. You have never treated Harry as a son. He has known nothing but neglect and often cruelty at your hands. The best that can be said is that he at least escaped the appalling damage you've inflicted upon the unfortunate boy sitting between you now." Both Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon looked around instinctively, as though expecting to see someone other than Dudders squeezed between them. "Us mistreat Dudders? What do you mean?" Uncle Vernon furiously. But Dumbledore raised his finger in silence, a silence which fell as though he had struck Uncle Vernon dumb. "The magic I invoked 15 years ago means that Harry has powerful protection while he can still call this house home. However miserable he has been here, however unwelcomed, however badly treated, you have, at least grudgingly, allowed him his house room. This magic will cease to operate the moment that Harry turns 17. In other words, at the moment he becomes a man. I ask only this, that you allow Harry to return one more time to this house before his 17th birthday, which will ensure that the protection continued until that time." None of the Dursleys said anything. Dudley was frowning slightly, as though he was still trying to work out when he would ever be mistreated. Uncle Vernon looked as though he had something stuck in his throat. Aunt Petunia, however, was oddly flushed. "Well, Harry, time for us to be off." said Dumbledore at last, standing up and straightening his long black cloak. "Until we meet again," he said to the Dursleys, who looked as though the moment could wait forever as far as they were concerned, and after doffing his hat, he swept from the room. "Bye," said Harry hastily to the Dursleys, and followed Dumbledore, who paused beside Harry's trunk, upon which Hedwig's cage was perched. "We do not want to be encumbered by these just now," he said, pulling his wand again. "I shall send them to the burrow to await us there. However, I would like you to bring your invisibility cloak, just in case." Harry extracted the cloak from the trunk with some difficulty, trying not to show Dumbledore the mess within. When he had stuffed it into an inside pocket of his jacket, Dumbledore waved his wand, and the trunk, cage, and Hedwig vanished. Dumbledore then waved his wand again, and the front door opened onto cool, misty darkness. "And now, Harry, let us step out into the night and pursue that flighty temptress adventure."